right, y'all. Welcome back and gather around because it's another episode of Money Honeys with
Freddie,
Chantel,
and Devin.
it's time again to talk money, but fun.
Is money the root of all evil?
Yeah, probably. Do we still want to know about it and make more of it? Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
probably.
All right, gals. How are we feeling this week? How are we doing? What's the vibe?
So I got a deal memo, like an offer to do like a creator thing with this like cat furniture company. They want to send us cat furniture, and if we get it, if like this happens, it will be the most expensive piece of furniture that I have in my house, but for Mars and Bones. And I just think that's perfect.
I mean,
I love it and hate it.
Coming from someone who just spent $500 on a dog crate,
$500? Clarence.
you know.
But he's so little.
You know, once you see the crate, though.
It's tricked out.
Is it like a mid-century modern crate?
It's definitely has an aesthetic.
Wow.
And it is larger, so I feel better about putting him in there because he has some room to like move and roll around, and it actually doubles as a side table. Like, so if you wanted it next to your couch,
Nice.
it's a side table, but it's also a crate.
I like that.
Oh.
So furniture,
Cat furniture, dog
furniture.
furniture.
That's the
It's a twofer.
Uh-huh.
So the crate costs $250
Yeah,
and the
and the
side
side
table
table
costs $250.
exactly.
Got it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's where our priorities are.
Yeah.
I forgot to tell you. So this morning I'm rushing to get here, and I'm looking for my lotion, and a lot of my things since Clarence came over, I've been finding underneath my bed.
This man.
So I was looking for my lotion, and I found it underneath the bed, and I like drug it out or whatever, and it had the handle all chewed. So like I couldn't dispense the lotion because it was all chewed. And I was like, thank God I knew that this was Clarence, because how terrified would I have been if I pulled that out and that was
it's like
a gnarled.
Wasn't Moans.
Yeah.
It wasn't Moans. So
Yeah.
who could
Yeah, exactly. Is there a monster underneath my bed? But I keep finding little treats, little
God.
treasures. He only
Wow.
stayed with us for maybe 24 hours.
Yeah, and he hoarded a bunch of items just
What
from
he does. He hoards it. He's like, this is
under the
mine.
bed.
Little pack rat.
Yeah, and so then it's just a little
Pile.
collection of items.
And all that it's underneath, so because he's so short.
Mhm. Oh yeah, he could just
Yeah.
It's his little savings account.
He's like, this is my wealth. I'm pooling my wealth.
Oh my God, please do not make me think that my dog's misbehavior is cute.
It is cute.
It's very cute.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this week has been pretty chill.
Yeah?
Again, I'm still getting furniture for the house.
Mhm.
So that's just like almost feels like a constant, you
Yeah.
know, always something to pay for. But yeah, with that said, that dog crate that came in this week, and
It did. It came
yes,
in.
it came
Wow.
in. It was a 6-week thing. It took during break. I'll show you guys.
Everything is
Please.
awful. Everything is awful.
Everything, always like you can't escape.
You spend money, and we're at a place in our lives. I have a girlfriend who just spent like $2,000 on a dining room table. She's like, I did it, an investment. I'm a big girl now. It still took like 3 months to come in.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, even I was actually talking to some friends in the group chat. We were talking about Telfar and Brandon Blackwood.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, my friend texted us yesterday. She's like, you guys, my Telfar bags that I ordered as a part of the bag security program arrived. I had totally forgotten that I got it. It was 6 months ago.
How much money did she put away for those bags?
It's
like
yeah, I mean,
$3,000 or something?
Probably, I mean, no, it wasn't even super expensive. Maybe like 400 tops.
Okay.
And then I was like, yeah, you know, Brandon Blackwood had a trunk week where he was like, he had put up a whole bunch of like new trunks, and I was really excited. And then he like posted on his Instagram, he's like, it's basically a similar thing. So you buy them this week and they ship out in August. I'm just like,
I might be
by
dead
that-
by then.
By that point, do I even still want the bags?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
No.
And I get it. He's trying to make it so that everyone can have a chance, and versus like trying to like rush to get it and they're sold out. Right.
It sucks for him. It sucks for us.
Yeah. So it's just like, I feel like everything right now is just a thing. Everything's a thing.
Everything's a thing.
Yeah.
Everything's a production.
Right.
Well, something that's also happening to me in August.
Oh, what's happening in August besides your birthday?
Besides my birthday, it's also my wedding. Yeah. Did y'all both get your little save the date?
Yes, and they were perfect.
Thank you.
I barked at Patrick. I was like, we're putting this in the calendar. We're going. Change everything.
What are you doing on this date? Doesn't matter. This is where we're going. This is where we'll be.
Yeah.
So,
Tonight we rage.
So marriage, Shanti.
Marriage. It's a big deal. It's
It
a
is.
big deal. And it's like, honestly, like so we've been together for a long time. Y'all know her, y'all love her.
Yes.
But so we've been living together for a while, but the thing that we haven't done is like combine any finance stuff. Because neither one of us is really comfortable merging any sort of financial assets until it's like legal and like on paper and stuff. We both just have, it's not that we trust each other completely. Obviously we're getting married, but we've just seen a lot. We've seen things over the years.
Seen some things in my day.
Yeah.
Seen some things.
Right.
Seen a lot of things go south. And so it's just like, no. But so we've been doing a lot of wedding planning, but a lot of financial planning too. Because it's, it's basically once that paper is signed, your life has completely changed with a signature.
I just gasped.
Yeah, I just got chills a little bit.
Yeah. A signature.
Are you ready? Do you feel
I do feel. I
ready?
feel like I'm already married.
Right.
Because we've been together for so long. We've been through so much stuff, a lot of sad stuff together.
Sure.
And so it's just like it definitely feels like we've grown a lot and grown together and gone through a lot of crazy experiences that have also like brought us closer. Because there's a lot of like so we've just been through like tragedies and stuff like that. And so a lot of times that can kind of split you apart.
Yeah.
Or it can bring you closer.
Absolutely.
And for us, it like definitely brought us closer, and it just like aligned our priorities a lot more. But
good.
And
yeah,
how long have you been together?
6 years. By the time this pod comes out, it'll be 6 years.
It's so crazy because I remember when you had your first date.
Yeah.
And we were talking and you were like, I have a date. And here we are.
I know. I remember telling you because you were like, oh.
I was like, oh. Like I had a little bit of whiplash, but I was like, but I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you were both always very
love
there
it.
for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so another big discussion that a lot of couples have premaritally is whether or not to do a prenup. It's often taboo. It's getting less taboo. I feel like it's not taboo for us just because, again, we've seen some things.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's like, it's definitely something an option that we're going to go for. And very happily so.
Who brought it up first?
I think both of us were just kind of like, we want to do a prenup, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. It's like, because no one goes into marriage with the intention of getting divorced.
Right.
We don't see that in our future because no one sees it in their future.
Yeah.
But it's also just like, okay, what we come into the marriage with is what we should leave the marriage with. What we make in the marriage together, we should also split together.
Right.
Should it end. Because it's just like, especially if you're getting divorced and there's kids involved and stuff, it's like, you just want that to go as smoothly as possible so that it's the least amount of trauma for those children. And so a prenup is a good way to at least try to mitigate some of it.
But I remember, because I'm old, I remember when the conversation of prenup first started happening in the zeitgeist, like when it was like in pop culture. I was like, I don't know, a teenager. And I remember specifically my parents who are super Catholic, right? Divorce is not in their vernacular, although maybe it should be. Love them. But at the same time, I remember them I have a specific memory of them being like, oh, well, why even get married if you're assuming the worst?
Mm-hmm.
If you can't trust them
Mm-hmm.
with your money in 40, 50, whatever years, then why are you even getting married? And I remember that mentality being very popular
Yeah.
even 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But now in our generation, it's like, I don't want to have to deal with this in 30 years. Let's just figure it out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. And something that I found, it also just like, it makes you talk about the tougher financial questions before it ever gets to it.
Right.
So it's like we've figured out a lot of financial issues before we ever get married. And then you even just solve it before you get married, because in marriage, there's going to be shit that comes up that we have no idea that will come up.
Yeah.
But so it's like if you can figure out some of the biggest things, aka money, then hopefully that'll help a lot.
I think also for me though, I always associated prenups with having a lot of money to start with anyway.
True.
So I always just associated with like celebrities or people who like really just had like a shit ton of money. But it's not exclusively for them, clearly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know so much about the process of getting married on paper. And like, is it a headache? Does it suck? Because you're in the process. You're in it right now.
In California, it's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to get married.
Wow.
Yeah.
After the break, we find out how easy.
All right, y'all. So I've prepared a little game for us.
Okay.
Prenup or no prenup?
Ooh.
I will give you a celebrity couple.
Okay.
They may be together. They may not be together. You tell me if you think they have a prenup or no prenup, and I will give you the answer.
Okay. I'm ready.
Love it.
To start us off, and I feel like this prenup was very much in the news, Jeff Bezos and Mackenzie Scott, formerly married to Jeff Bezos.
I was going to guess no prenup because of the news.
Yeah, I
because
think no.
she got so much money.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you're correct.
Love
They
that.
didn't do a prenup?
They didn't do a prenup. I don't know that he had made Amazon at that time.
He didn't. They made it together.
Yeah, so there was no prenup, and then she got half that Amazon money.
Good for her.
Wait,
Good
do
for
we
her.
know the dollar amount?
Like 19 billion.
Yeah, it's been it's like so, and she's donated like a ton to charity.
Like a huge percentage she get put to charity, but
Mhm.
still, like it's like
You'll never. I mean, you can't spend that in a lifetime.
No.
yes, that's the GDP of some countries.
Yeah.
That's why
19
Jeff
billion.
Bezos is just like, guess I'll go to space.
Yeah.
Because like there's like, what else is he gonna do? Crazy.
I know.
No prenup. Good for Mackenzie.
I mean, yeah.
We love it for her.
Do you think he even feels it?
No way.
Like
no.
How would he? We're talking billions.
billions?
I can't even. My brain doesn't even understand how much that is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awful.
Wow.
Mhm.
For 19 billion to kind of just be like pocket change is pretty crazy.
Yeah. She's like a billionaire.
Yeah.
That's
like,
insane.
like he wasn't like
Mhm.
he wasn't affected at all. It was
Mm-mm.
Ah.
Yeah. Okay. Jay-Z and Beyonce.
I think they did a prenup.
okay. Let's think about this. I think Okay, when did they get married?
Mhm.
Early 2000s, right?
Mhm.
Where was Beyonce was pretty established in her career at that point, but
Mhm.
Jay-Z was more
Mhm.
I don't think Tina Knowles would have let her get married without a prenup.
without a prenup, even though he made more or had like a larger pool.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I'm wondering if I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no prenup.
Okay. Devin?
Prenup.
Okay. According to Business Insider, they reportedly signed a prenup that gives her $5 million for each child they have together. The prenup also stipulated that Beyonce would receive $10 million if the marriage ended before 2 years and $1 million a year for every year they remained married, up to 15 years.
What a weird prenup.
Also,
I mean, there's a lot of prenup like that are when you're
Yeah.
dealing with such large amounts of money like that. There's a lot of like celeb prenups that are very like calculated like that. And again, this is allegedly. It's according to Business Insider.
Right. But also,
But-
like, it sounds like Jay-Z is paying to be married to Beyonce or something?
He's paying for her maternal
Like her
labor,
childbirth.
basically.
I love that.
Mhm.
That's
I love
amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah, for every kid.
Wow.
For every
And
kid.
she happened to look up with twins. I mean, hey.
Good for her.
I'm not mad about it.
Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson. We're going back in time.
Wow, this is like 2000,
Mhm.
2003.
I'm gonna say. I mean, they did get a divorce.
Mhm.
Jessica Simpson has been doing. She's been doing stuff. Like
Yeah.
she's definitely active still. Like more
Mhm.
like behind the scenes, but she's
Mhm.
definitely like has her own.
Right.
Mhm.
But I'm wondering, did she get that money
Mhm.
to start? You know what I mean? Like, did she get that money from a prenup? Like additional funds to
Right.
like really build her career.
I'm going to say prenup just because I know her dad was super involved in her
Mhm.
career and life. And I feel like he would be like, no,
Mhm.
prenup.
Yeah, let's say prenup.
Yeah.
Say prenup? No prenup.
No prenup.
They had no prenup.
Wow.
She said in an interview that Nick Lachey actually wanted her to sign a prenup, but she was offended and thought that they would be together forever. So she was like, no, I don't want to sign a prenup.
Homegirl. Like,
I know.
Wow, baby.
I know. She
ooh.
came from a very Christian background too.
Mhm.
And so it's like
Yeah, she
divorce
did.
is a lot less common there. She was also like, they're
She was just a
youngish.
baby.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, super
Child.
Yeah,
young.
she grew up in like entertainment and stuff. So she's like mentally even younger probably.
Right, right.
Mhm.
And so it's like she was in love. She's like, no prenup. Despite the fact that he was even like, yeah, I'd like, let's do it. And
Right.
she's
Like he was
no.
like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Wow. I wonder what that divorce proceeding was like.
I know.
Mm.
I don't
It
know.
didn't seem messy.
It didn't seem messy.
So I'm curious.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Last one. Gabrielle Union and Dwyane Wade.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Prenup.
He cheated on her. It was pretty public, too, right?
Yeah. Well, it was technically they were on a break,
Mm.
but
Still.
he got someone pregnant on the break baby. It's too much.
Reportedly, prenup.
Good for her.
Good for
yeah.
Good for her. Good for
for him.
him.
Yeah.
But also, wow.
Well, now that we're all a little bit on edge about marriage and prenups, let's talk about our relationships and splitting finances.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so, you guys know I've been in a relationship for about 1.5 years, so it's still pretty new for
Mhm.
sure. But something that I have learned in this relationship is especially like when you're starting a new relationship in your 30s, it's very different from starting one in your
Mhm.
20s.
Oh,
In
yeah?
your 20s, you feel like you have so much time, right? It's like,
Mm.
oh, well, yeah, we've only been together a year. Like, we need to be together at least 4 or 5 years. Because that's,
Mhm.
I feel like generally like the time frame of like relationships in your 20s, right? And then marriage. So for me, I have realized like, yeah, I don't really know if time is a factor right now for me.
Mhm.
Like it being, almost 32, like I'm kind of like, yeah, I mean, we can hang out for a little bit longer, but like I would like to move forward and progress,
Right.
Mhm.
So my mindset about finances, I think, are very different from my boyfriend's mindset about finances.
Mm.
And we've had a lot of financial conversations. And, for me, it's like I'm thinking like, okay, yes, build up your personal savings so then we can start saving for like us.
Mhm.
Mm.
And in his brain, he's still, I mean, it's still early, right?
Right.
Like and by 1.5 years, I mean like official, like that was a lot of dating
Yeah.
during that period. So I would say officially it's been 1 year. So when I broached when I approached the conversation, he was just like, I was like, well, have you even like thought about a ring? Like what's happening? And he's like, oh, I mean, it's honestly, it does still feel new. So I wasn't in that mindset, but I
Mhm.
feel you. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like I just wasn't. Like
Mm.
he's still, yeah, we've been together a year. It is short. You know what I mean? Like in the grand scheme of things. But for me, it's like I'm dating him very intentionally in that
Right.
way.
Right.
You know
Well,
what I mean?
also, your first year together, you bought a house.
Yes.
So that, I am curious about that conversation of like, you have a mortgage now.
Mhm.
Do you charge him rent? Please tell me that you overcharge him for rent.
I mean, well, I will say buying a home, as we all know,
Right.
very expensive.
Mhm.
And so initially when I was first looking, like it was still very much like, yeah, maybe I'll get a roommate. Like I'll figure it out because we weren't living together
Right.
yet. It was
Mhm.
again still pretty early on in our relationship.
Mhm.
And then like the further on it got, I was like, so you're really not going to just move in here with me? Like, you're going to make me like go find a roommate? This is crazy. And he's like, no, I'll move in. And so, but with all of that money, I was like, okay, I would love for you to move in. I want you to pay more mortgage than me because I just bought this house. Like, I just want you, for me and my soul, I just wanted him to pay a little bit more.
Yeah.
I
No.
just did. So we split mortgage and bills 60-40.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah. And he was like, okay.
Because you have more costs up front, right?
I'm like, well, I did this thing. And I'm also like renovating and like doing all these things to make it a comfortable home, not only for me, but for you too. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like that stuff I do. I'm fine with taking full responsibility of like paying for reno and like all that. Like, it's my home.
Right.
So that's fine. But it's also just still not cheap. And so I'm like, well, yeah, like I would love for you to just like, step up for me in this way when it comes to like monthly payments and that kind of thing. And he was like, okay, cool. So.
That makes me love him more.
I know.
You guys are looking at me. So well, it's just very different because Patrick and I got together when we were in our 20s. I was 25 when I met him, 26. And then the first couple years of our relationship, it wasn't tumultuous, but we were young, like even when we moved in with each other and got a roommate, which who we still have. We still have a roommate, Ross, love him. And so I feel like we kind of made a lot of mistakes together and went through a lot of, drama up front. And then the pandemic happened and it just brought us, like you were saying, way closer together and way made us a lot more serious about each other. And not short amount of time. The pandemic has been too long, but you know what I mean? Like,
just kind of figuring out priorities.
Yeah.
Where it's like, is this something, into perspective? Exactly.
Right. So I think because we got together so young, we put in place some like infrastructure, if you will, of how we handle finances together. And we've just been abiding by that. Like we have this app called Splitwise, which is incredible. Basically, we log our expenses for the houses and whatever we buy for each other down to like meals. And then Splitwise does all the math for us and tells us how much we owe each other. You know, what the government should do with taxes. They bill us. Yeah, they don't do Splitwise does it for us, which is great. And I think that's kind of how we've been. It's just 50-50. I mean, Patrick's Dutch. He's so Dutch. And by that, I mean, like, the phrase going Dutch.
Yeah, going Dutch. He's like 50-50.
We're at 50-50.
Yeah.
Like down to like our vacations together, our dates, everything is 50-50.
Was that ever... Have you always been on board with that? Was that ever like a point of contention for the two of you? Like, did you ever feel like, wait, like, why do I have to do 50? Like, can you just, or the other way around? Like,
right.
Did he feel that way ever?
I think because I get really gun shy about, because I'm a people pleaser in general. I hate it when I feel like I have to owe people something. It brings me a lot of anxiety. So I think I prefer 50-50 because I feel like I don't owe anything and where I can just be my own person.
Yeah.
I think for me, when I want to see like investment, because I think that's like the emotion behind it. When I want to see personal investment, I want more effort from him. So it's less to do about money and more about like how much effort he's putting into like making our meals or planning a date or something like that.
Right.
So I think that's kind of like where the split comes in. I had a thought.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, I had a thought I wanted to say about us and our situation. But we're very much apart. Like we want to get a prenup when it's time. Oh, we had a conversation a while back because at this point I still make more money than Patrick. He has a lot of investments. Like he is good with money. We had this conversation really early on because I was like, hey, I make more money than you. Does that bother you? And he was like, no, because I'm better with money than you are.
Oh,
damn.
I mean, look at his diverse portfolio. He said, nope, because I
you may be making more money now, but compound interest. You know what I mean? Like,
he said, wait till he said 2025 is up.
Right. And to be fair, I also kind of bank on that because, like, realistically speaking, like when we get married, we want to start a family. I'm not going to want to pay for childcare in those first couple years because I was a nanny. I've done that. And so in my mind, I've already been banking like, first 2 or 3 years of life, I'm going to be out of the workforce.
See,
You
I
know
didn't
what I
know
mean?
that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. At least part-time out of the
Yeah,
workforce.
totally.
So you're like, great, earn that now for us, Pat.
Mhm.
Right. And I even make the joke, like with Pat, like, I'm making more money than you now,
Mm-hmm.
but like, Hollywood is not good to women
Mm-hmm.
when they get older,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
which fucking sucks. But, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's interesting with me because like not being in a hetero relationship, it's
Right.
like it actually took away a lot of the like pressures of like guy, girl, all that stuff. And so we've just always split stuff right down the middle, just
Mhm.
50-50. And then going into marriage, we'll have like a joint investment account
Nice.
that'll kind of be like for expenses 2 to 3 years down the line. So
Mm.
it's even like in vitro stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then also to pull for like vacations or whatever. And then for our checking account, our main expenses is where we'll just put large portions of our money to come out of.
Can you, and this may be a dumb question, can you
Mhm.
explain what you mean by investment account versus it being just like
Mhm.
another savings?
Yeah, so an account that has like, so we have a financial planner.
Mhm.
And so basically just like our portfolio, like that'll just be part
That has
of
the
it.
bonds, the stocks, and,
Exactly.
like, the
Okay.
The
mutual
bonds,
funds.
the stocks, mutual funds, all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
So
for
that
longer
it's
term,
growing
so it grows over time
versus
without
just
you
a
having to
savings
think about
account. And so that kind of will function a little bit as our savings account, one
Gotcha.
of them.
Yeah.
And then retirement, we have like all that stuff in addition to. But yeah.
We have so much to learn.
We have so much to
know.
learn.
And thankfully, we have an expert coming on, don't we?
We do. Coming up, we have Jessica Marino of Marino Wealth, who's going to tell us how the heck to handle our monies when there's another person involved.
Great, can't wait.
Let's chat with her after the break. All right, y'all, we are back. And here with us is Jessica Marino of Marino Wealth. And she's going to talk to us all about the monies.
The monies.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi, thanks so much for having me today.
Thank you for coming.
So good to have you.
Jessica, can you briefly tell us just like how did you get into this line of work?
Yeah, it's actually pretty funny. So I'm the oldest of 4 kids from a traditionally middle class family. My mom's North Side Chicago Irish Catholic. My dad's from Ecuador, so it's kind of like a weird combination. And when I was a young child, I actually became really interested in the stock market, and it was this like weird fluke thing. I came across the business section in the paper. I was about 8 or 9, and then just became obsessed with the idea of owning shares of stock. And the article that I'd read at that time had like lower price stocks that could fit in my like 9-year-old budget. So then every year for my birthday, I put on the top of my Christmas list and my birthday list that I wanted shares of stock, and every year I was ignored, basically.
No, you were ignored?
Did they not know like how to buy the stocks or like what was it?
So I think some of it was that they thought I would be disappointed. My family as a whole wasn't super investment savvy,
Yeah.
and I think they just thought that it was this weird thing that I'd be happy if I got something else like a toy or something. But then finally, when I was 14, I think they probably figured I was old enough. My grandparents broke down and they opened an account for me with their stockbroker at the time, and they bought me 1 share of Walmart for my 14th birthday. And so at that point on, I started investing money that I was earning from babysitting and summer jobs, into this little account. And naturally, as a result of that, I became really interested in, just business in general. I took a lot of business classes in high school and then majored in finance when I went to college. And so I, kind of naturally always really enjoyed the stock market. And I remember at one point my mom, when I was kind of thinking about my next steps after college and what to major, what to major in, but then also what to do after college, my mom was the one who actually encouraged me to consider finance, since I already kind of had this affinity to it. And then when I was in college, I was recruited by American Express Financial Advisors to become an advisor. And they then later spun off, they're now Ameriprise Financial. I worked there for 12 years, and then I loved it. And then I decided to take the big step to start my own firm, and that was almost 6 years ago now when I started Marina Wealth. So it's interesting because it was this weird,
Wow.
quirky thing that happened when I was a kid that now has led to a career now, a decades-long career, which is cool.
Do you still have that stock, that Walmart stock, or have you sold it off?
I have sold it off. I did use a lot of that money to help with paying for college and everything.
Smart.
So
Oh my
I will say at one point I bought a
Wow.
car with some of the money, so that wasn't the best financial move. But,
I mean,
but hey, a teenager's got to do what they've got to do. So
oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I'm over here in awe. I'm like, wow, she is not new to this. She is true to this
Wow.
since 8 years old, 9 years old.
She picked up the paper and was like, great, that's how I'll make money.
Yeah.
Wow, that's how it's done.
Yeah.
Damn, that's
Oh
so
my
impressive.
God. It really is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, the things I wish I knew when I was 9.
Right.
So, Jessica, you've kind of heard us fumble our way through our discussion of relationships and finances. And what I want to know is like, what money talks should you be having with your partner? How do you open that conversation? When should you do that?
yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I will say the types of conversations and when to have the conversations it's really going to depend where you're at in the relationship. I mean, I definitely don't think that it hurts to have some money talks early on. But I think as you become more serious and start getting closer to making financial decisions, that's when you really do need to have some of the more detailed conversations. So for example, when I see people making big decisions such as buying a car together, signing a lease together, buying a home together, I mean, it's well before then you should really start at least easing into those conversations. One big thing that we see at our practice, we help clients all the time with the merging of their finances. And one thing that I see across the board is that we typically take it in phases, right? So certainly if you're newly dating somebody, it doesn't hurt to talk a little bit about money, but I would say some of those conversations usually are going to be most comfortable when they're a little more surface level. But then as you become more and more serious, right? Like with a lot of your more personal feelings about things, right? Like as you become more engaged in that relationship, the conversation should really be evolving. So certainly, right? Like you shouldn't be buying a house with somebody and as you're getting to the closing, figuring out that they have bad credit, right? Like those
Right.
conversations should come well before,
Right.
you're having the actual discussions of making that decision to make that huge purchase with that person. Certainly, what somebody makes in terms of their income, that should happen well before you're marrying them. I mean, so again, you kind of know what you're getting into it because at that point you're going to become more intertwined with each other. You're going to, legally be tied to each other tax-wise and everything. So, I mean, in terms of exactly when to have those conversations, I find that in a lot of cases it kind of organically evolves. So having some of those surface level conversations early on, I think is a good first step. And then evolving those conversations over time, again, as you're talking about different life choices that you may be making together, right? Like, like the conversation of like, do you want to have children, right? You might not necessarily dig into all the details of that on your first date, right? But you may start planting the seed early on and then evolving those conversations over time. The same is true with money.
Did you ever go on a date with a broke person in your life, given your affinity to finances and stocks? Did you ever give them the chance? Like,
I mean, I'm sure I have, and I will say too, right? Like, I've definitely had different evolutions in my career as well, right? So definitely in my 20s, I probably was the broke person on the date with somebody. So I mean, I think we all go through different phases, right, as we're building our careers and building our finances as well. So, and I think that's kind of a natural thing that happens to all of us, right? There are different phases in our lives where we're kind of getting on our feet and everything, and yeah, so
You're so good.
so I'm sure I have. I'm sure I've possibly been the broke person on the date.
Fair enough.
We've been talking a lot about splitting finances, and so if you have a married couple, what are some different ways that you suggest those couples split their finances? How to merge it, how to split it, how to do all of that stuff?
Yeah, so generally speaking, I'm a big fan of pooling your resources. So I think that once a couple is married, whether it happens immediately after the wedding or it takes a little while to get there, I think longer term, merging your finances together and thinking of it as our finances as a family is typically going to be your best bet for the long haul. Mm-hmm. So, one thing I see a lot is when people move in together, they start splitting things, possibly down the middle, or in some cases it might be, maybe they have some type of split they agree upon. If it's not down the middle, maybe it's a portion of income, maybe it's based on who's using the extra bedroom as an office. And I think that makes sense when you first move in together. It is a little bit more of like a roommate agreement in a lot of cases. But over time, if we fast forward and you've been with this person for 20 years, like at that point you've built a life together, like you're not roommates.
Right.
So I think over time, right, starting to have those conversations, and again, usually we take it in phases, about merging all together, I think is going to be the best thing to do. Because the thing that I've learned is that over the course of a marriage, there are all sorts of changes when it comes to what's happening in your life, what's happening in your finances, careers, income. And so what I've seen is, all sorts of good things and bad things happen to people, right? Like a spouse could easily lose their job for a period of time. Mm-hmm. And, if you're splitting things down the middle and they're stressing out about giving you their half of the rent or the mortgage each month, right? Like that's not the best thing for your family in the long haul. Mm-hmm. I've seen this a lot too, and traditionally more with women where they take time out of their careers and time out of the workforce to stay home with their families. Again, that person shouldn't be struggling to make their half of the mortgage payment if the family as a whole decides, you're going to be not earning an income outside of this house for X amount of years until the kids go to school. Mm-hmm. So, and what I found too is that when you're a family, if one person's making really smart decisions and the other person's not, it's going to impact the both of you. So getting on the same page, I think, is the most important thing to do. So in a lot of cases, what we'll see is, again, they might start by splitting things down the middle, and then typically we'll kind of evolve to the point where opening a joint account makes sense. And in many cases, we'll start with putting smaller dollar amounts into that joint account. So maybe we just start by splitting the rent and the utilities and groceries, but then over time, the more that we're combining our incomes, the more that we're combining, just the expenses that are going out the door, how much is going toward savings and debt and everything, the better it is for the long haul, of that family. So, so I definitely, in terms of my general preference, most of the time is to really consider merging eventually, not to look at it as splitting or not to look at it as, oh, well, this is my money, this is your money. It's your money together as a family.
Wow, you surprised me, Jessica, because, spoiler alert, we've known each other for a while. But, I just feel like the feminist new age kind of belief is girl, keep your money, keep it separate, and maybe have a joint account, but you're putting a portion of your money in that. And not all of your money. But now you're telling us kind of not different news, but tell me more.
Spin on it.
Yeah.
Well, so just to be clear, I do think, that everybody should have access to money in their household. The decision makers, let's say, right? So if it's you and a spouse, I think, you definitely need to have awareness and access. But in any household, right? Let's say one person doesn't work for a period of time and one person makes less money, the other one's the breadwinner. I do think, again, kind of combining those resources, and being aware as a family, making those decisions together, I think is really important. But yes, you would absolutely want to have access. I will say, definitely, the days of, oh, my husband takes care of that, I don't even know how to log into the account, or the accounts are all in his name, that I will say I do not agree with.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, even as I'm preparing to get married and stuff, it's the cognitive switch of thinking, okay, this is my money that I earn, this is her money that she earns, to then thinking about it as okay, this is our household money that we then are making all the joint decisions with. And so it's do we want to move? Let's look at that together. Do we want to get a car? Let's look at that together. And just thinking about it as a unit more so.
Absolutely. And I will say, I think a big thing that I see, and it sounds like you're going through this right now, right, is that people are getting married and combining their finances way earlier or way later in their careers than they used to, right? You know, I mean, my parents got married in their early 20s. I didn't get married until my early 30s, right? So that, I mean, that's a huge difference when you think about what you've done with your career and your life, you know, in those years. So, so absolutely, it can be, I think, a bit uncomfortable, which is, you know, why I think always making sure that you have those open conversations and making sure that you're on the same page with how quickly you move or how slowly you move, I think is always kind of first and foremost.
Yeah, definitely. And like, because something that what we're starting with, and we're also open to like, okay, this can maybe like change as time goes on, but it's like for every paycheck that we each earn, we're putting kind of like the majority portion of that into our joint checking, and then that's the household fund, and then kind of like the little bit that's left is like our quote unquote our own money, but also neither one of us is very like precious with that money, so it'll probably just be used to like surprise the other one, to like get gifts and stuff like that, you know.
Right.
So it's like it still is, and it's like, oh, if one of us winds up with a lot of excess, and it's like, okay, no, that like it's just our money, you know.
Right.
But I feel like we probably think about money differently than other people do, so I don't know.
Right.
But yeah,
Because there's just different interests. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know about you and your partner, but Patrick and I have like very different interests, like in how we want to spend our money. Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, I anticipate our conversations when the time does happen, getting a little deeper about like, okay, because he's just I'm way more risk averse than he is. And so he's way more into stocks and, you know, crypto and all that stuff. And he's keeping the eye on the ball. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have time for that.
No time.
No, none. So like, that's a conversation where like, when you say that, Jessica, I get nervous because I'm like, wait, but what? But you're right. I mean, it just brings all of that to light so that you talk about it.
Yeah.
And you discuss it.
Yeah.
And you know, and you have an awareness of where your money's going collectively. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I got really uncomfortable.
Yes.
I did. I got really uncomfortable with the idea, even with what you saying, like the majority of what we earn goes into joint, and then, you know, whatever's left over will, like, you know, kind of be our own. You know, thinking about that, I'm like, I just get so stressed. I don't know. It's a control thing. You know what I mean? I think it's just like a control thing. I'm like,
Yeah. Because for us, it's like the majority of our expenses, it's like home, utilities, like basically stuff that right now we already split 50-50.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, okay, now it's just being pulled out of one account versus like Venmoing each other back and forth to infinity.
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
That's true.
And so it's like, that's where it's like, even right now, it's like the biggest portion of your income probably goes towards your mortgage. And so it's like, so that's how we kind of figured that split. And then maybe down the line, if we make a shit ton of money or whatever, then then the percentage can change or whatever. But that's where we're at for now.
Yeah, no, I love that. I need to do some self-reflecting on
soul
why.
searching.
Yeah, like
You're also at a different point in your relationship, though.
Yeah,
so it's like this isn't a conversation that you'd be having right now, you know.
But just like, I know we're kind of talking about like how, aside from pooling your resources as being a potential benefit, is there any other financial benefit to legally getting married? Like, does the government look favorably upon you? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, what do I get if I, you know, change my name?
I want to know.
So it's funny, on a Facebook group that I'm a part of for financial advisors, there was a bit of a debate about this the other day.
Oh, hell yeah.
Benefits versus being married.
Give the tea.
Yes.
And of course, one person jumped in and said, well, if the tax break or the tax benefits are the main reason you're getting married, like that's kind of odd. Like most people think of other reasons to get married or not get married. But I will say in certain situations, you know, the tax laws can be a little more favorable towards couples that are filing jointly, which means that you'd be legally married and filing a joint tax return versus single individuals. That isn't across the board. It depends on who's making what type of income and the disparity of those incomes in relation to each other. I will say, though, that certainly there are some different legal benefits that I do think come about from being legally married. That doesn't necessarily need to be the reason why you get married, but for example, there are definitely still companies that don't offer domestic partner benefits. For example, that would mean that if you are living with somebody, and can prove that you're tied to each other financially, that you could possibly get on their health insurance or be covered on their company's life insurance, right? I will say certainly in terms of some like estate planning laws and everything, you can go and privately have documents drafted, but again, there are certain legal rights that at times you're given when you're legally married versus not. Again, some of those laws and options are evolving over time, but I will say, unfortunately, there still are some legal and tax benefits to having that piece of paper, whether that's, right or wrong. That's unfortunately kind of the situation right now. I will say that, again, whether you have the piece of paper or not, there are definitely some ways to work around some of this. And I think more than anything, depending on where you're at in your life and what you do decide, right? Getting married legally is a choice that some people don't want to make, and I think that there's definitely some workarounds for that as well too. And just making sure that you're clear on what those decisions are that you're making together. And I think also as well, one big thing that I think is always important to think about when you're not legally married is what happens if we break up. Now, I mean, getting divorced when you're legally married is never an enjoyable thing, or typically not an enjoyable thing. It can be costly, but the way I see it, there's at least some laws in place that can help with like a precedence. Whereas when you're not legally married, I find that sometimes it's a little bit trickier for people to navigate what those financial decisions look like, such as if they own a house together, if they're breaking up and they were mainly living on one person's income. For example, I had a client who was with somebody for a long period of time. They were never legally married, and she lived in a foreign country with that person. They made significantly more money than her, and they had a little bit of a settlement, but it was an agreement that the two of them had made. Again, if they were legally married, there would have been court proceedings to help determine what, any sort of financial obligations would have been. And quite honestly, from a legal standpoint, I don't know that there needed to be a settlement. I mean, it's great that they were able to do that, but again, possibly the partner could have just said, I don't care, I'm not giving you anything.
Right.
Yeah, I'm taken aback by this like settlement for the unmarried couple, because I've never heard of that.
No, me either. Like, what kind of settlement are we talking about? Like, just a pool of money?
In this case, it was a lump sum of money, basically.
Right.
But again, it was an agreement that they had made together with the two of them. And I'm glad they did, and I'm glad that they were able to have kind of those clear conversations about what happened and everything. But I mean, more often than not, it's the case, right, that the person who does have more control of the income and the assets maybe wouldn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So Uncle Scam still doesn't recognize living in sin. That's what I'm hearing.
He's a puritanical scammer.
Yeah, and I get it though. You're right, because Jesse bring up a good point, because it's like, at least when you're legally married, there are laws in place to help you to not get screwed as much.
Yeah. I'm curious, like, in your experience of all the years that you've been doing what you've been doing, like, is there like sort of a formula for unmarried couples in terms of finances that you have found or seen to be the most successful? Like, is it 50-50 splitting? Is it just each person having their own and like literally moving that way? Like, is there a formula that you've seen that's worked?
So Chantel was talking about this. I love the strategy, and this is what my husband and I do, where there's a joint account that covers, a certain list of the expenses, and then each person has their own individual account for some of their individual spending. And my husband and I, it's very similar to what you had described, where we have like a certain amount of money each paycheck going into our own individual accounts for individual discretionary spending. And so I will say sometimes there's a joke around our house, right? When Amazon boxes come in and things are coming in the mail, is like, oh, what did you buy now? Oh, no, it's okay. I paid for it out of my individual account.
Wow.
So I, kind of the thought there is like, we shouldn't have to consult with each other every time we want to buy something. We should, we should be able to spend some of our money, in a way that doesn't include the other person. And of course, by deciding the amounts that go into those accounts, we've kind of made an agreement, like this is an amount of money that we can each use for kind of some of that allowance money, discretionary money, mad money, whatever you want to call it. And then we can each decide what's on that list.
But what happens if two LLCs come together or two S corps? They meet each other and sparks fly, and then the birds and the bees happen.
A stork arrives.
Tale as old as time, Jess. What happens?
So romantic.
I know, right? When two businesses merge.
So I think, in the case of two people that are self-employed, right? Is that kind of more what you're referring to, Devin, right?
Yes.
The two people that get married, each kind of have their own corporations or LLCs. They're both self-employed. I will say, I think one of the great benefits of that is that hopefully there's a certain amount of like financial education that the two of you have both separately gone through to understand, what it's like to be self-employed, right? So I think one thing that can be kind of tricky sometimes is if you're the person who is self-employed and you wind up longer term with someone who's not self-employed, sometimes they just don't totally understand the different considerations, the headaches, the stress of some of, the extra tax work and everything. So, I think more than anything, right? Like you're in the same boat. So I think that probably makes some of the conversations a little bit easier, hopefully. Now I think, in terms of like the logistics, I mean, one big thing that I think is important when you're self-employed is to make sure, whether you're single or with somebody else, that you have control over your income. And so what I mean by that is typically I recommend, paying yourself a set amount or putting yourself on a salary. Like I, for example, am on a salary here at Merino Wealth. And I think that can help make the day-to-days in your personal household more stable. And so certainly, right, if two LLCs come together and maybe one has that stable income that they've set up and the processes and the strategies around that and the other one doesn't, I'm thinking maybe that's the first conversation, right? Because I think what can be challenging, I mean, we're all, impacted by this, as people who are self-employed business owners, is the ups and downs can be a little tricky sometimes, right? And so we don't want that to be impacting your personal finances negatively, or at least we want to minimize how much, that can negatively impact your personal finances. So I think the other thing to consider too is leveraging what the two of you have within your businesses, right? So maybe one person's business is a little more established and they might have group benefits, such as a group health insurance plan, where maybe the other person then doesn't need to take that step. So I think what's really cool when you're self-employed is you have a little more freedom and flexibility. Yes, there are some more steps you need to take typically, and there's some more headaches, I'll admit. But I think, the great thing about, let's say two LLCs or two corporations falling in love, right? and hopefully some of those conversations will be a little bit easier, and the learning curve, I think, will be a little bit shorter than if you're marrying somebody who's really maybe just only had that traditional 9-to-5 job for somebody else.
Right. Interesting. Wow, you're really blowing my mind here, Jess.
Yeah, I know. So much to think about.
Right. One last question. Are there any hidden costs to getting married that I don't know about?
I don't know if it's hidden, but the wedding. The wedding. If there is a wedding, that, yes. I find that, and for some people, getting married is going to City Hall, I think you guys were talking, right, about like the, the $80, $100 fee that you pay. And for other people, it turns into this big, expensive event. And neither option is bad or good, right? It just, I think, is a personal preference. But I will say that anytime I see a wedding involved, I feel like it's one of those things that takes a life on of its own. And so I find that it turns out to be this big transitional period in the couple's life. And some of it, you can budget out and plan for, but I find that, during that time period, there are a lot of incidentals that pop up along the way. And so again, I don't know that I would call a wedding like a totally hidden cost, but what I find is typically by the time it's all said and done, people spend more money than they expected, and it definitely kind of disrupts their day-to-days a little bit more financially than expected in a lot of cases.
So Jessica, the age-old question. Marriage or mortgage?
Yeah.
Is that how it works? You have to choose one or the other?
Yeah, like if you had to pick.
This is an actual Netflix show I just learned about. I just learned that, like,
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll admit I haven't watched that show. But yes, the down payment versus the wedding.
Yeah.
Again, I think a lot of that's a personal preference. I
Mhm.
will say what's funny is I always I'd see clients and we talk about their wedding budgets and they'd be renting apartments and they wouldn't buy a house because the wedding had to come first and all this. And I would think to myself, oh my gosh, how could somebody spend that much money on one day? How could they spend that much money? I would never do that and stuff. And then lo and behold, I go and get married and yeah, we spent, a bunch of money on the wedding. And again, it takes on a life of itself. So, so I will say we do own a home as well too. But I think it's a personal choice, right? And I think more than anything, I definitely think there's a lot to be said for, a simple marriage ceremony or a simple wedding. But again, I think you got to be careful because it takes on a life of its own. And I was surprised by myself by the end of the whole thing.
See, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Where I'm like, oh my God, this shit is expensive.
Yeah. Even I was so Jessica, I was the officiant at a wedding in the fall, and it was one of those it was going to be a smaller wedding anyway, but then it got pushed because of COVID, so then the numbers got even smaller, and it was a pretty like streamlined wedding. Like she didn't have wedding parties, no groomsmen, like it was just at a beautiful restaurant in Brooklyn, like that type of thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, like that was probably like really affordable. And then like I had ended up asking my friend like how much she ended up paying just out of curiosity. And it was not much different than what
a down payment?
what a big wedding would cost. Like it was still, tens of thousands.
Yep.
And I was just like, she was like, yeah, girl.
That's where I'm at. We were like, you know what? It's not going to be traditional. It's just going to be like a big party. Like we just want a rager. And it's like, wait, is this actually more expensive than if we had just done like a normal ceremony and plated dinner and all that stuff? I'm like, oh my God.
No.
It adds up, man.
Maybe just do a house party.
Right. Yeah.
What's funny is I had a destination wedding, and that was a little bit of the thought process too, right? It'll be smaller, we'll all be on vacation together, so it'll be fun and everything. But then more and more as we started planning, I will say because it was a smaller number of people and they were coming a long way, there were definitely things that we didn't cut corners on that maybe we would have if it was a local wedding.
Right.
So it adds up. It definitely adds up. And so, the story, Freddie, that you have of your friend, I could see where maybe they stopped cutting corners in certain areas because it was a smaller number of people and they wanted everybody to have great food and great drinks and everything. Like I remember we chose like the top shelf option for the open bar and stuff because we thought, if people are coming all this way, we can pay a little more per person so they can order a nice drink and stuff, but then it wasn't any cheaper. So it's crazy how that works.
I wish more. Never mind.
Yeah, that's just capitalism. Capitalism saw two people falling in love, and they were like, "How can I insert myself into the story?"
There's definitely that wedding upcharge for sure.
Oh, woof. Well,
I have one last question for Jessica.
Yes.
Are the marital tax breaks, if you're married, filing jointly, how good are they? Are they really like?
Are they sexy?
Is it a good tax break or is that a scam too? Because I don't know yet. I haven't done it yet.
Yeah. So I will say, it depends. Definitely, one thing that I've looked at and my clients have looked at is kind of filing the return separately versus together, kind of doing the draft of like the options. And it certainly can be a difference of like thousands of dollars depending on your income level. When, you look at filing separately versus filing jointly together. I will say what's crazy though is the tax brackets are very different and all of the tax law, or a lot of the tax laws are very different if you're married filing jointly versus if you're two single individuals versus filing separately as a married couple. So the tax laws, in my opinion, are just way more confusing than they need to be.
Right.
But in some cases, it can be a difference of thousands of dollars, but it also depends on the differences in incomes as well, too, within the couple. So, Yeah. So, I mean, again, any sort of tax benefits or consequences, I don't think should be the reason why somebody gets legally married. But definitely one thing that I think is just important more than anything is just to know like the landscape changes. So, and to be prepared for that. And again, that's where some of those conversations, come into place earlier on so that you're ready to kind of, navigate things together.
Wow.
Well, thank you so much
Right.
for all this info.
You've given us a lot to think about.
You've made getting married seem more serious. Like it's like
Yeah.
more like because now my skin is more in the game. Like if I'm giving wow.
You're like, my money, mine.
My money.
I know, and maybe it's not very romantic, but like when you do marry somebody, right? I think it is a financial decision.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it also is setting you up for, financial decisions for the rest of your life.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, my husband and I, own a house together. We now have a child together. We have to navigate, childcare expenses for that child, and our hope is that we retire together, right? So it's this, lifetime of different decisions you need to make together.
Yeah.
And the hope is, right, you're making those decisions and you're usually on the same page or able to communicate properly to make sure everybody's happy and everything. But I mean, it is, right? Like, and hopefully, hopefully when you do get married, you are married with that person when you retire, right? You are married with them during these life changes. And so more than anything, right? It's important to make sure you're on the same page so that as you're making these decisions as a family, you're doing what's right, not only for the household as a whole, emotionally, mentally, physically, but also from a financial standpoint as well, too.
Amen.
Amen.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for
Yeah,
having
so that's
us.
us part. It's no joke.
Yeah.
Yes. Where can people find you? Where can listeners find all your information?
Yes. Yeah. So the best place would be merinowealth.com, our website, and that's MERINO wealth.com. So you could definitely find more information there. We do on our website, you can certainly sign up for a consultation if anybody wanted to address their finances individually. We're also on Instagram and Facebook as well. So follow us on Instagram where, Merino Wealth is our handle there.
Check out Jessica. She's got a lot of good information, y'all.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
We love it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank
you.
And we'll be back after this break.
Wow, y'all.
My mind has been changed.
Yeah.
So much money's today.
I'm different now.
Yeah, I feel like there's some learnings I need to take back to the house. You know what I mean?
Poor Patrick and Ruff.
I know.
They're not expecting this.
They're like, how is the podcast recording? So these are the things that we need to open up.
Are you sitting down? Because you should be.
Yeah.
Like, who did you talk to? How do I erase her number from your phone?
Yeah, but actually, I feel good. I feel almost even just like more knowledgeable, more prepared for when the time comes. I love that Jessica, she had really great advice, but also kept it pretty open depending on the dynamics of each different relationship.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I respect that.
I definitely like that. It makes me feel good about where I'm at
Right.
going in to the legally binding thing known as marriage.
I'm so curious once it's all done, the wedding and everything, if it'll feel different. I'm so curious if it'll feel different.
I know.
When you get to be like, my wife?
I know. I probably will feel different.
My wife?
I mean, I
My
have to,
wife.
right?
Yeah.
You're like supposed to.
My wife.
Wife. Once I get all the invoices for the wedding, I'm going to feel real different. I'll be like,
Yeah. Butthole clenched.
Yeah, sphincter.
Butthole clench.
Your poor sphincter.
And on that butthole note,
This is the butthole of the episode, you guys, because we're heading out.
Yuck. Thanks for hanging out, you guys, and we'll be back next week.
bye.
See you then.